Happy New Year! Coming to you from Studio A here at Proven Winners ColorChoice Shrubs. It's time for the Gardening Simplified Show. We're going to establish a resolution constitution for you this year on today's show with Stacy Hervella, me, Rick Vase, and our engineer and producer, Adriana Robinson. Happy New Year to both of you, and here we go. This is going to be fun. Resolutions not from us, from you, and we thank you very much. I love the first resolution right off the top, Stacy, from Ann. She says, Happy New Year. I'm in 6B and have been gardening for 30 plus years. My New Year's resolution is to start a cut flower garden. I've felt guilty for cutting flowers to bring them indoors to enjoy. No more.
Well, I think that's a great resolution. I think that it's just as important to stop feeling guilty about the stuff you're cutting, as well as giving yourself a place to, cut other stuff. But
I love it.
Cut flowers are the fastest growing segment in agriculture right now, cut flower growers. And I think we've said it on the show before. It's the ultimate luxury to be able to go into your own backyard and pick a fabulous bouquet. So kudos, Anne. I can't wait to hear how that turns out.
Good work, Anne. And I love this one from Nadine. She says, my name is Nadine. I am from Belgium, Flanders. I was in Holland this past year. I wish I would have crossed the border into to Belgium. What a wonderful place. Nadine says, I am a blind gardener. My resolution for next year is to sow more flowers and hopefully succeed. Kudos to you, Nadine. Way to go.
Yeah, that's a really interesting situation. I'm wondering what she's going to plant.
We'd like to hear from you again, Nadine. That's fantastic. Also, it was interesting to me, a lot of the resolutions related to something that I bemoaned last year and I'm working on and have resolved, and that is irrigation and drip irrigation. Althea says, my resolution is to learn how to lay drip irrigation. I'm so overwhelmed and clueless, it actually scares me, but I know if I plan to be a successful gardener, I have to learn. And it'd be great if you guys speak on this topic. Cecilia says the same thing. 2024 resolution is all about garden beds and pots have to be on drip before I plant anything. And Carol Rose says the same. One resolution is to follow my plans and then install drip irrigation.
Well, you can't argue with that. I have had drip irrigation before, and for me, that's the ultimate luxury because I do not enjoy watering my garden. Yeah. I enjoy the results of a well-watered garden. It's kind of like cleaning your house. I don't like the process of cleaning. I like that it's clean. Similarly, I like plants that look watered and healthy, but I do not personally enjoy watering. I'd rather weed than water. And so I've had a garden on drip irrigation, and it is fantastic. You do nothing, and you get all the credit, and and it uses less water because it's a very low water emission. So
it sounds like it's a resolution for a lot of people to get away from those kinky hoses and install some drip irrigation. I love this one from Brandon. I've got to share this here a minute. Brandon says, my resolution, which started about a month ago, is to make and throw more seed bombs out of my car window on highways and interstates.
Sounds a little dangerous, but
every winter I make seed bombs with native prairie plants to make these areas a little more attractive, mostly to help out with insects, birds, and small mammals. I take care not to throw them in mown areas or areas that are adjacent to farmland to avoid spreading them into crops. But he's doing more of that this winter, and his sore shoulder is there to prove it. I like that. Few seeds germinate and survive to maturity. But when you see something you've planted a couple of years prior, it puts a smile on your face. Happy New Year from your southern Hoosier neighbor in Indianapolis. Brandon, that is not a resolution. That is a revolution. Wow.
Yeah, Brandon's an MVP, most valuable planter.
So way to go, Brandon. I love that resolution. Lisa's going to continue resolutions from last year to continue digging in trench edging around garden beds. Now, of course, last year we discussed the topic of edging, and I'm doing more of that too, that trench edging along grassy areas. So it sounds like some people are looking at edging as a resolution also.
Well, hopefully we inspired them, but it is a nice thing to have an edged garden, especially if it's a low maintenance edge.
Exactly.
If there is such a thing.
Like to live on the edge, if there's such a thing. Here's a Limerick for all these resolutions that you've sent us. And again, thank you very much. You can find us on Instagram, of course, YouTube. If you watch us on YouTube, our website, gardeningsimplifiedonair.com. All right, here it goes. I keep my expectations on a tether and keep my eye on changing weather. No matter how it goes, the consolation, I suppose, is that we're all in this together. And that's very true. So go ahead, stick your neck out. No room here for self-doubt. And so to improve, we resolve our garden skills to evolve and our dreams to grow and sprout. So that's the first Limerick for 2024.
That's delightful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Dawn says, Happy New Year to both of you. Looking forward to another year of gardening with you for 2024. I want to bring my garden plans with me when I purchase new plants. Now, I have seen this also from other folks who jumped in on the resolution thing, and that is, this year I'm going to have a plan, and then I'm going to stick to the plan. But the issue is, in spring, we get so inspired. We walk into the greenhouse or the garden center. Everything looks good. It's kind of like going to the buffet when you're hungry, right?
Yeah. That's exactly what
and
it's like.
And then you overdo it.
All those good intentions go out the window and you say, oh, but there's this. I didn't expect to see this year. And then next thing you know, you're at home trying to sort it all out, which is a great feeling. I love that personally. I'm all for it.
Oh, we're part of the problem, too, in Plants on Trial. I mean, we talk about fabulous plants.
It's true.
That we'd love to have you put in your garden. And then before you know it, you're walking around in the yard with a shovel in one hand, a plant in the other, and trying to figure out where you're going to put it. But that is, of course, and I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that is a resolution you can keep.
Well, you can try if that's what you really want to do. But I think that takes out a lot of the fun of going to the garden center.
Yeah.
It's like, does anyone go to Costco with a list and only get what's on their list? No, never happens. We should have the same freedom at the garden center as well.
You've got it. Jumbo pack of everything. From Wendy, Rick the Mulch Man, Vase more power. Rick, you get the reference? Yes, Tim Allen, right? Made me laugh. I have a resolution to redo the west bed and some hardscape projects that I've been talking about for years. But what I loved here from Wendy is she said one other thing. I love Stacy's pins she wears. I think they were her grandmother's. Can she do a piece on them, even if it's only online since it's not gardening? The one she had on today was beautiful. Happy New Year. Love your show.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah.
Maybe an Instagram post. Yeah, maybe we'll do an Instagram post of some of Grandma's holiday jewelry. Even though the holidays are over, I have a bunch of it. So it's not all holiday themed.
That's great. Jack, or maybe it's Jacques. I don't know. It's spelled J-A-C. How would I pronounce that? I don't want to mess it up for you, Jack or Jacques.
I think if it sounds like it's short for Jacqueline.
Oh.
Because if it was just like the man's name, Jack, it would probably have.
Okay.
Who knows?
So we'll go with that.
Jack.
I resolved to remove all the weed barrier fabric installed by the previous owner in my flower beds, utilize all the cardboard I've been saving in the garage to sheet mulch to improve the soil. Stacy, I put that one in there for you.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate you doing that because, it's one of those things I can rant on this all day, but it sounds like a good idea. It sounds like it should be helpful, but any gardener who has ever had to deal with it, whether it was a previous well-intentioned gardener or a previous well-intentioned version of their own self, it's a nightmare to try to get it out, and it's not even effective. It doesn't even really keep the weeds down.
Yeah, so
it's lose-lose.
There you go. So
Sorry.
Good resolution. And Joan says simply, I want to buy less and divide more. Divide and conquer.
Have you ever heard about a perennial exchange?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a great idea. You get together with a bunch of other people in your community, your town, friends, whatever, and you just divide and swap perennials. And that's a great way to expand your plant palette. And I thought of organizing one myself.
It is great. It is great. And we also got resolutions from people interested in a topic that I touched on in a previous show, and that is layering There's different types of layering that you can do for propagation, but also layering as it relates to establishing and planting your garden and combining plants together. And I appreciate and love that. Let's see, it was Megan in Rhode Island. So thank you, Megan. And yes, it's on the agenda, an upcoming show this year on the Gardening Simplified Show to talk about layering. We're going to handle more resolutions a little later in the show, but next up, plants on trial. Let's see what Stacy's going to roll out first for 2024. That's next here on the Gardening Simplified Show.
Greetings, gardening friends, and welcome back to the Gardening Simplified Show, the first one of 2024. And since it's a new year, I thought it would be the perfect time to talk about a new plant.
I like that.
You know, every year, Proven Winners ColorChoice Shrubs, we have anywhere from 25 to 35 new varieties coming onto the market every year. Now, that does sound overwhelming, but we like to say they're not just new, they're better. Because even though they are really pretty, and you couldn't be blamed for thinking that we introduced something simply because it was beautiful, there actually is another reason behind everything that we introduce, whether it's that it's, doesn't produce seed and get invasive. It's a native alternative to an invasive plant. It has a better habit, a new color. We look for all of these different features, and ideally more than one. And that's how we determine whether a plant is worth introduction if it meets all of those qualities after our trial and testing process. So I know a lot of people think, oh my gosh, more new plants. What am I going to do? There's so many. But
it's like an upgrade or an update on your cell phone. That's kind of what it's like, constantly.
It is. And when people often say like, oh, more new plants, well, why? It's like, well, do you say that about your phone? You want your phone to just like stay stuck in 2005 and not do all the cool stuff it can do and have a great camera and all the helpful things? No, you like welcome that in other aspects. But with plants, some people just want the same old, same old. And if so, well, then the show probably isn't for them. So, but there's always new plants. And the one that I am covering today is juiced orange jessamine.
Wow. And you're going to have to explain to me, Stacy, why is it Jessamine and not Jasmine?
Right. I'm glad you asked that because I'm sure a lot of people are thinking like, wait, did I hear that right? Did she say Jasmine? Because it didn't sound like it, but it kind of sounded like it. So this plant is a cestrum. That is the scientific name, Cestrum. And the common name is indeed Jessamine, Jessamine. So not Jasmine, Jessamine. And no, I don't actually know where that name comes from. Do you?
I did a little research, and it said Jessamine and Jasmine are used interchangeably. They had, here you go, joint resolution number 534 that established South Carolina state flower in 1924 and described it as Carolina jessamine. So I guess it is interchangeable.
Oh, interesting, because the plants certainly are not.
Exactly.
If you grow juiced orange jessamine expecting a jasmine, you're going to have a really cool plant, but you're probably going to be disappointed, number one, because it's not fragrant.
Right.
And so that's one of the biggest issues is that this is not a fragrant plant. It looks like it should be, but it actually is not. But let me give you sort of a taste of what it looks like. So it is a compact shrub, reaches 4 to 5 feet tall and 3 to 4 feet wide. So much smaller than the average one, which is one of the reasons we selected it for introduction. It's more compact and easier to use in the landscape. But the main thing that this plant does is it is just covered in yellow trumpet-shaped flowers all summer long. And the trumpets are small, so don't think of like a trumpet vine, which has really large trumpet-shaped flowers. These are many small trumpet-shaped flowers that are arranged together in these clusters that kind of remind me of a honeycomb.
Oh, yeah.
They have like a unique sort of geometric look to them. And they bloom like that all summer long, and they attract tons of hummingbirds. So they have a lot of nectar, but what they don't have is fragrance. So that's why I would not argue for using those terms interchangeably.
I would agree, Stacy, not using them interchangeably. It's just something I read in my research, but very different from the tropical jasmine plants that we would bring up from Florida, and they're super fragrant.
Right. And so the flowers are yellow, not white, although some jasmines can have sort of kind of yellowish flowers. But so if you want to be perfectly correct, you can call it cestrum. Those two are actually interchangeable.
All right.
And so this is a plant. Now, I have to say, first of all, most people might be hearing about it for the very first time. But I do want people to understand that it is not a super hardy plant. It's only hardy to about USDA zone 7B. And even there, if you have a harsh winter, it might actually die back like a butterfly bush would, in our climates. But it will still come back from the roots, and it will still go on to flower just fine through the summer. It flowers on new wood. But it's also very heat tolerant. It grows all the way up to USDA zone 10. It's native to South America, so loves the heat, humidity, warm climates. But for those of us in colder climates, you are not going to miss out on this plant because it is an awesome patio plant. So I love this plant because it ticks all of my must-have boxes for my annuals or patio plantings. It's yellow, which I love hot colors, and it attracts hummingbirds, and that's kind of where it ends for me. Those are my most important factors when I'm choosing them. But so I did grow this from a small 1-quart plant, like you could find mail order, and it grew really fast, and it literally did bloom all summer, all the way up till frost. And so it's such a great way to just keep having those flowers. It performs like an annual, even though it's actually a shrub.
So if it performs like an annual, is this something, Stacy, that you put in the compost pile if you're a northerner like me, or could you potentially overwinter it and keep it alive?
Well, so that depends on you. You can absolutely try to overwinter this. Generally speaking, the more heat tolerant something is, and this one goes all the way up to USDA zone 10, the more likely you will be able to overwinter it.
Okay.
Usually it's plants that need more cold that are harder to overwinter. That said, if you are going to try to grow it indoors, a very cool spot, much cooler than what you would want to live in your house in winter, and bright and good air circulation. So it's possible, and you should certainly try. You might just wish it had died if it starts looking really bad, getting powdery mildew and pest outbreaks, just because it's kind of struggling. It's not its preferred environment.
Yeah, my whole goal is just to keep it alive until next year.
Yeah, and then you can reuse it.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely worth a try. But on the other hand, if you do find yourself going online and purchasing a $20, $25 plant that you can grow and enjoy, compare that to most other annuals. Right. Most annuals are usually costing nowadays $6, $7 for a quart themselves. People are buying hibiscus, jasmine, mandevilla, and those are costing upward of $30.
Oh, yeah.
And this is one that not everyone else is going to have. So it's really going to bring a lot of unique color, dimension, and like I said, my favorite, hummingbirds.
Yeah, well worth it. And if you can attract hummingbirds, butterflies to your landscape, that's ideal.
Now, I will say that my success with this plant, I was fertilizing it regularly. So as I fertilize my other annuals, probably every other week or so, that's going to definitely, in a container, give you the best flowering.
Fertilizer and sunshine. Hey, I got to mention, this has nothing to do with what do you call it? Jasmine? Jessamine?
Jessamine.
Jessamine.
Cestrum.
But I've got this cool new lamb's ear cardigan sweater that Stacy and Adriana gave me at Christmas time. This thing's just fantastic. And I'm able to dump my other Mr. Rogers cardigan because of it. And it's got these great little pockets. So there's a mint for you.
Oh, thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Well, we just won't stand for anyone teasing you about your Mr. Rogers cardigan.
Thank you very much.
We wanted to make our love clear.
I appreciate it.
So a couple more things to know about juiced orange cestrum. It is deer resistant.
Yes.
I know, we love that.
Yay.
And I grew it on my patio, again, with all of my other deer resistant annuals, and they never touched it. So that I took as a great sign. It's going to want full sun, another thing that's definitely great for me. So you want at least 6 hours of bright, uninterrupted light to be successful with this. Now, in the landscape, if you live in a hot climate, you can probably get away with some shade, but if you're growing it certainly as an annual in seasonal color, you're definitely going to want that full sun. And right along with that, of course, good drainage. So this is not going to be one that you're going to plant in a container that doesn't have any holes or in a spot where it gets water. Full sun, good drainage is going to be best. And semi-evergreen. So if you live in an area where it loses its leaves, it keeps the ones at the end, just the tips of its branches. So all in all, a really great plant that I think is a lot different than what most people are used to seeing.
And Stacy, if you live down south, you're in Florida or whatever it is, Texas, and you're warmer than, let's say, zone 7B, Is pruning a concern? Any concerns as far as pruning is concerned? Old wood, new wood, that kind of thing? Or are you just good to go?
That's a good question. So it does flower on new wood, which is why it's able to flower so much during the summer.
Okay.
And because we did select this to have a more compact habit, it's not going to need as much pruning as a more conventional variety would.
Excellent.
But you are going to want to make sure that you are giving it some pruning, just managing it to do what you want in your landscape. So that's it for the first plant on trial of 2024, Juiced Orange Jessamine. You should be able to find it at a local garden center, especially if you live in an area where it is hardy. If not, look online at the number of places that sell Proven Winners ColorChoice shrubs and find out what the fuss is about. I think this is a great plant that definitely deserves to be better known, and that is why I am making it today's plant on trial.
Love it. I'm juiced about this one, and I'm going to give it a try.
Are you jazzed about it?
I'm jazzed and juiced.
Jazzed, juiced, and Jessamine. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're opening up that garden mailbag, and we're going to have more of your resolutions. So please stay tuned. Greetings, gardening friends, and welcome back to the Gardening Simplified Show. Everyone knows it's my favorite part of the show where we answer your garden questions, and we are going to be taking some time to also share your resolutions. It was so great to hear from everyone.
It was fantastic. And, winter's a great time to plan, to think about it. There were folks who sent us messages saying, well, they love to buy seeds at this time of the year. So do I. It's fun to look through a seed rack or a seed catalog at this time of the year. So, again, we garden 365 days out of the year.
Yeah, if dreaming counts, and I think it definitely does, then
Dreaming
absolutely.
counts. You got it. Karen sent us a New Year's resolution. I love this. She says, this year I vow to spend more time enjoying my garden.
Amen.
And we had a show on that also. Go back and look at it, the art of enjoying your garden. We'll talk more about that in the coming year. Way to go, Karen. She says, usually I sit down with a cup of coffee, try to actually enjoy my garden, but then I see a weed that needs pulling or a flower that needs deadheading, and next thing you know, I'm up and attending to the many tasks the garden requires. I do that too. It can be early in the morning and I've poured a cup of coffee and then I spot something in the garden, and next thing I know, I'm out there in my bathrobe with a cup of coffee. I'm weeding and doing stuff out in the yard. So we got to sit back and enjoy our gardens.
The coffee's cold. It's full of dirt. My recommendation in this situation.
Floaties in the coffee, yeah.
I'm 100% in support of anybody enjoying their garden, because really most gardening tasks can wait. And the more important thing is to enjoy it while you can. But I personally have a little bit of a cure for the weed situation.
Okay.
When you pick a weed, go sit back down and look at the weed. It's always so interesting.
Oh, good idea.
That's what I would do.
All right. Sounds good. And Stacy, this from Trixie, who lives in South Central Texas, newly named Zone 9A. Yes. Wow. By late June, my garden looks wrecked. I need to stay focused on consistent water, routine maintenance, and weekly or bi-weekly feedings, if for no other reason than to have a nice garden, even if that's possible in the Texas heat. Boy, I feel your pain, Trixie, and great job on working on your garden in that kind of heat. Again, it goes back, Stacy, to the fact that a lot of people are looking at watering issues and that sort of thing moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Stacy, a resolution from Drew says, I'm starting a new garden with a blank slate at 65. It's not as easy. I understand that, Drew. I'm right there with you. When I put my last garden in, but I'm motivated to give it a shot. Unfortunately, it's solid clay soil. Oh, I'll be buying lots of sand and topsoil. I would recommend, Drew, no sand. No sand. You mix sand with clay, you get concrete. So don't mix that. Save yourself the time and don't mix the sand with the clay. Marielle says, I'm always thinking about gardening. I just ordered seeds and some of the plants for next year's garden. Marielle's resolution is to be less of a procrastinator in her garden in the coming year. Peggy also included a part of her garden New Year's resolution because of our age, our backs, the size of our garden. We want to start replacing some of our higher maintenance perennials, spreaders, and large grasses. Less summer deadheading, splitting, fall cleanup, fewer annuals. This is tough because I love them all, with medium to small, evergreen, and colorful shrubs. So yes, looking for medium to small evergreen shrubs and evergreens. Very doable, Peggy. Again, over the course of last year, we talked often about how plant breeders, the golden age of plant breeding, Stacy, we're finding a lot of plants that can fill the bill for Peggy.
Right. And, Peggy included a picture of her garden. And it was one of those ones where I said, okay, I'll look at the picture. And my eyes popped out of my head when I looked at it. And we will have that on the YouTube video as well as on the show notes at Gardening Simplified on air.com. You have to see Peggy's garden. It is spectacular.
Way to go, Peggy. Ann says, my New Year's resolution is to learn more about plant diseases and be more responsible about organic management. My New Year's resolution for Cindy is to enjoy the garden more as it is. Last year, I scurried around so much buying new plants and changing things. I know why I did that, but I think it took away some of the joy from the garden to find solitude and relaxation. So busy, missed some of the beautiful and simple enjoyment a garden can bring. And Eastern North Carolina is such a beautiful place to live. I intend to appreciate that and revel in that. I like that a lot, Cindy. That's well done. And, that's another reoccurring theme that we're finding from people is, again, to embrace the joy of gardening, to enjoy their garden more, not be too hung up on the fact that we got a little problem here or we got a plant that basically kicked the bucket over here, but we keep trying. And as I said in my limerick, we're all in this together. Right?
And I think that Anne's comment about learning more about diseases and pests so that you can be a better manager of your garden is such a great one for all of that. Because if you do take the time to learn a little bit, you know what's crucial, you know what's not crucial, you know what you can procrastinate on.
Exactly. And timing is everything. Laura says, not really a resolution, but we're moving from central Ohio to northwest Indiana, and I can't wait to visit Zeeland, Michigan. Now, of course, here at Proven Winners ColorChoice Shrubs, Studio A, we are broadcasting from, let's call it Spring Lake or Grand Haven, Michigan, very near Zeeland, Michigan. And Laura's been following these Proven Winner sponsored YouTubes and wants to know the best place to see tulips. So I sent a note to Laura about the tulip fields in Holland, Michigan. And usually, most years, if we get a really warm early spring, you can have a stem fest out there. But they try to hit it the best they can. Can't control nature. Usually the first week of May is when those tulips will be in full bloom.
Well, and if you miss the Tulip Festival, there's always the Dandelion Festival in Borculo. So
there you go. That's a fun one, too. Bambi House says, I want to collect more rainwater. So we talked about the hoses. We talked about drip irrigation. But yes, what about rainwater? There's another great responsible way to garden. And Jackie wants to enjoy more colorful dwarf conifers. Now, what I'm seeing here, Stacy, is a trend that there's a number of people who have a renewed interest in 4 seasons of gardening and evergreens.
Yeah. You can't go wrong with shrubs. I mean, I eat and breathe them here, so I am on board, and I'm glad to hear that so many other gardeners out there are as well.
And then finally here on this segment, Make Go Grow is the handle here for this person who says, I'm joining Rick on the shed organization wagon. And any suggestions for organization systems? There were some folks who sent us messages saying putting shelving in their garden shed was a game changer for them and helped them organize. So maybe there are some shelves in my future.
Oh, not a bad idea.
I'm going to get that shed organized. Branching news coming up next here on the Gardening Simplified Show. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Gardening Simplified Show. Okay, I tell you what, resolutions, fun, looking forward to 2024. And we want to thank everybody for your support. It's been overwhelming. Podcast, radio, YouTube. Thank you very much. This is going to be a great year, and we're glad you're joining us in this year. Like the resolution from Kristen. Stacy, Kristen says here, hi guys, faithful show watcher. And I'd like to say, why would I buy a word of the day calendar when we can listen to Stacy? I like that.
That's so nice. Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Kristen, Stacy taught me more words last year than I had learned in some time, and I think 2024 will be the same. So I agree with you. And also, Kristen has a resolution to add new garden paths, just like I did this past year. So that's fantastic. Plant more proven winners Vista in Kristen's landscape. Of course, the Vista Supertunias. I'm a big fan of Vista Supertunias, and I would agree with that. Also want to mention Frauke also sent us a resolution planning to pre-order annuals. Instead of making do for the ones she can find at the greenhouse when she comes back in early May, home from warmer zones, so wintering in warmer zones.
You know, I feel that, and it's a problem because I get an idea in my head about, I want these annuals. They had them last year. I'm going to do this, or I hope they have it. And then I go and no one has it.
Yeah, exactly.
The supply chain is, it's not reliable, unfortunately, except for things like Vista Bubblegum Supertunia. There's a couple things that you'll always find unless they sell out. But pre-planning and pre-ordering, if you are very set on what you want, your color scheme, you're not one of those composing on the spot kind of gardeners, then it's a great idea.
Strike while the iron's hot. Now, here's some ideas for branching news possibly you could do in the coming year. How about this? Shorebird enthusiasts share their best imitations of seagulls, sandhill cranes, and other birds at an Alaska Festival bird calling contest. So there you go. Yeah, Adriana, I think, wants to do this. The Homer Brewing Company bird calling competition in Ketchimack Bay, Alaska, May 8th through 12th. So if you think you've got some really good bird calls, that would be a good place to go. Or how about July 6th of this coming year, the World Championship Snail Racing event in Congham, England. The event was founded in the 1960s, and the Guinness Book of World Records has now named the annual event the longest running humane snail racing world championship.
Oh, wow. The addition of humane in there is very concerning. Not because of this particular race, but that there were inhumane snail races happening before, apparently.
It must be they were happening. So now Guinness recognizes it. The snails attempt to cover a distance of 13 inches.
Aww.
World record of 22 seconds was set by a snail named Archie in 1995. And if you go to it, you'll get a tankard of lettuce. That's your prize for the winning snail.
Oh, I bet they really appreciate that.
It is. That's hilarious is what it is. Last year's runner-up was heard saying, "I'll get you next slime." Okay, let's see here. Oh, I wanted to mention this. Top 10 tasks that relieve stress as we head into the new year. Tasks. So not top 10 things that relieve stress, but we're going to post this survey on our website, gardeningsimplifiedonair.com. So here you go, Stacy. Top 10 tasks that relieve stress. Number 1, what do you think the number 1 task is? A task that you have to do that you're like, I'm going to do this because it's going to relieve stress for me. And it can't be gardening.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say cooking for me.
You got it. Cooking by far was number 1 on the list.
Nice.
Cooking, top of the list. Cleaning, number 2. Gardening, number 3. Doing the laundry, number 4. Folding the laundry, number 5. Mowing the lawn, number 6. I can see that. Doing dishes, organizing, sweeping, vacuuming, mopping, and then last on the list, weeding. I think we both enjoy weeding, though.
I do enjoy weeding. I'm surprised it didn't just get lumped in with gardening, but I'll take it.
Yeah. And a big thank you very much to all the folks who watch and listen to our program, the podcast, radio show. We just appreciate you so much. And last year, here's a follow-up to a story that we did. Let me see what the name of this chicken was. Peanut. You remember Peanut last year? Peanut the chicken, the oldest chicken in the world, died.
Oh.
On Christmas Day.
Oh.
Yeah. Sad story. 21 years old.
Wow.
Peanut died at her home in Michigan on Christmas morning. So was born in 2002 and is in the Guinness Book of World Records. That's extraordinary is what it is. And I've been following this as far as Peanut is concerned. And so, 21 years as a chicken.
That's not
bad.
Nothing to sniff at.
As they say, the plot chickens. So there we go. A story, we'll post it on the website, of a gal who went into a Goodwill store and bought a vase for $3.99. Now, I like this because I like to go out there Goodwill hunting also to these stores. It's just fun. Found out that it was a rare vase, and it sold at an auction for $107,000.
Nice return on investment.
Whoa. It's a pretty cool vase. Bought it, $3.99. Let's see. It's a Goodwill store just outside of Richmond, Virginia, I believe. And it was December 19 where the vase sold through the Wright auction house for $107,100. The buyer, a top collector from Europe. Also in the news, we'll put it on the website. They found a mole that they thought was extinct. They call them DeWinton's golden moles. They hadn't been seen since 1936. They used, they used a dog by the name of Jessie to pick up the scent of the mole and tunnels, and were able to find this in South Africa. And this mole generally operates in sand. So there you go. The mole, the merrier. They found this mole that they thought was extinct.
And it's a beautiful mole, too. When you see the pictures of it, it really is golden and kind of shimmers in the sun. You probably don't want to get me started on moles. I know that they can be destructive. I know they can be destructive, but they are just fascinating, amazing creatures.
They are amazing and hard workers. We'll put a link to some trends that are from the Royal Horticultural Society for 2024. And they're saying fruits that thrive in hot weather and weeds such as cow parsley to decorate borders are some of the 2024 trends for them. I thought that was interesting. And then finally, in a future Gardening Simplified show, I'd love to hear from folks what their favorite gardening movies are, or a movie that has a gardening trend or whatever. My favorite lines as it relates to gardening from movies have got to come from Bill Murray in Stripes when his girlfriend is leaving him and heading out the door. And he says, "You can't go, all the plants are going to die." You remember groundskeeper Carl Spackler in Caddyshack. And then I love Walter Matthau from Grumpy Old Men. He says, "I got a cactus in my bathroom, but we got nothing to say to each other." Talk to your plants. It'll help get you through this winter. And then Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy in Batman. "You must be new in town. In Gotham City, Batman and Robin protect us, even from plants and flowers." So down the road, love to hear from you if you've got a favorite gardening movie or a line that relates to gardening from a movie. We'd love to hear about it here on the Gardening Simplified show. As always, you can send us your emails. Just go to gardeningsimplifiedonair.com. Look for the Gardening Simplified show on Instagram. And of course, as far as tuning is concerned, radio, podcast, or look for us on YouTube. Stacy, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Rick. Happy New Year, Adriana. And Happy New Year to all of you.